Welcome to RCPylon.TV. I'm Don Stegall. This video is a dual purpose video. Part of it is to join the wing on a Strega 40 ARF by the World Models. This airplane is designed for very high speed and it's plenty strong. The wings are fully sheeted. I have some printouts of some vinyl graphics that I had made. I'm doing this as color tile. Well, my color tile is not exactly scale in size. There's a reason that I have them slightly smaller. The other purpose is to demonstrate the use of fillers when joining a wing, especially ARF wings, or even wings that are scratch built. When you join a wing, you'll see that there are tiny gaps, and even with the best building, those gaps, I can see light through them. And if you just use plain epoxy, you may not get a fully filled gap. If you don't get the gap fully filled with glue and have maximum surface area, you could have a failure at the root of your wing or even at the ends of the joiners. A lot of people just use simple epoxy. The problem with that is on a joiner, it wiggles around, in this case, in the slot. Now if I just put regular epoxy that's not thickened, it's not going to have a really solid joint on that joiner. Part of the purpose of this video is to promote my line of epoxy fillers. You can get 4 and 8 ounce sizes of currently 8 different fillers on Amazon.com, and soon I'll have them on StegallHobbies.com. But the different fillers all have different properties and different usages, and I'm going to explain what to use where. Now the gaps on this are not real big. If they were real big, you would want to use something that bulks it up a whole lot. It's a little loose in there, and I would consider using cotton flock, because cotton flock is thixotropic. It makes the mixture not non-sagging, but it also adds volume and strength to the epoxy. I could use Cavasil. Cavasil thickens the epoxy into a non-sagging paste, and it doesn't increase the volume of the epoxy very much, but it's also very light. Not that we're worried about a couple of grams here. The thing I really like to use is microfibers. These are very small fibers that, when mixed in epoxy, form a matrix. Cavasil, the particles are effectively round in shape. And with cotton flock, they are fibers, but as I said, it adds bulk. I don't want to add bulk in the center section, and I could do 2 batches. I could do one with cotton flock for my joiner since it's a little loose, but I think you'll see that with the microfibers, it'll fill in the joint in the spar pretty nicely. I have trim to put on the bottom of the wing, and normally I would do work like putting the aileron servos in first and do any other things that I could do on a per half basis. But since I'm going to be putting the vinyl graphics on the bottom, I want to be able to have the wing together and complete the wing as I work on the fuselage. I've got to join the wing because on color tile, it was a stiletto. It doesn't have a belly pan like a regular P-51. It has a fairing, and the fuselage sticks out about a ½ an inch or a little more where the belly pan comes in. I'm going to make a fairing on the wing when I fit the wing to the fuselage. So the easiest thing to do is to get started. I have my tape. I'm going to put the cabecil to the side and put the cotton flock to the side and get a spoon and get my area prepared. And I'm going to get a cup because I'm only going to mix one batch of West Systems 105 resin with 206 hardener. That'll give me a 20-minute pop life, which is plenty to get a wing joined, especially one that has a alignment pin at the back. Now I'm not going to try to take off any of the covering that's over the edge, because if I do, then I'll have to worry about covering over it, and the minimal amount of area that covering takes up is not going to make a difference in the strength of this joint, not when you have this much area. And I'm trying to decide if I'm going to mix 1 ounce or 2 ounces of epoxy. I think I'm only going to mix 1 ounce. That's 1 squirt of hardener and 1 squirt of resin. And if I happen to need more, I'll mix up more. Now, before you mix any fillers into your epoxy, you should mix the resin and the hardener. Some literature will advise you differently. However, if you mix the filler in with the resin and then add the hardener, it's going to change the viscosity of it for one thing. And I'm going to mix in the thixotropic microfibers to get the consistency of paste that I want to join this wing. I'm going to add 2 spoonfuls because I know that's about right. And you may want to wear a mask when you're handling these fillers. And I have a non-sagging paste. It's actually a little bit too thick, so I should have mixed in my fillers a little bit more gradually. But by completely mixing it up, I've gotten it into a workable paste. But what I've actually decided is that I'm going to mix up a little bit more epoxy to thin this out. And since I was contemplating mixing 2 squirts anyway, it's no big deal. And now you can see I have a paste that's a little bit more flexible. And it's still non-sagging. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some filler into the joiner cavity. And if you put too much, depending on the cavity, you may actually have a hard time getting the joiner in. So be careful about overfilling it. Another thing is when you're gluing wood parts, put glue on each part that you're gluing to get the best bond. So I'm putting it on the joiner. For one thing, this primes the wood with the solvents that are in the epoxy. And I learned from my father, who makes very fine furniture, that gluing two surfaces of wood together winds up with a much stronger and better joint than and you can see that some epoxy has squeezed out, and that's fine because we're just going to go ahead and spread that out on here. And before I start spreading it on both halves, I'm going to go ahead and put my glue into the joiner cavity. And now I'm going to put glue on the joiner. Actually, I'm going to spread it on the wing first. So if I bump into the joiner, I don't get as much on me. I'm using an artist spatula to spread the mixture onto the wood. You can get these artist spatulas at Michael's and Hobby Lobby, or probably even Walmart for oil paints, if they have oil paints at Walmart. I know they have acrylic hobby paints, but I'm going to put the wing up here on my plastic. And like I was talking about, I'm putting glue on both of the mating surfaces of the wood. If you only put it on one surface, the wood doesn't get as saturated with the glue as I was mentioning, and you don't get as good of a joint. Now, some's going to squeeze out. obviously. Teflon is actually resistant to acetone, which is quite convenient in this case because I may have gotten some glue on it. I've got too much glue on the house because I had it a little thicker than I intended to have it. So I've got to go ahead and scrape off a fair amount of it. What you're seeing is a good demonstration of what not to do. I don't publish just my successes. I show my failures as well. I'm going to put some force on this to squeeze out the epoxy. Next time I'll make it thinner. Clean my hands up. The one thing I'm going to do is wipe off the glue from the center section. I normally would have scraped it, but I didn't have very much that came out. Now the wing is securely taped together. It's fully aligned. All the excess epoxy is off. Some people like to let the wing cure with the center section down, but I prefer to let it cure with the weight of the wing holding the gap on the bottom closed as best it can be. And there's plenty of epoxy in there. I'm going to be honest, I edited out part of this video. I mixed up my microfiber. I mixed up my microfiber mixture too thick, and I had problems getting the wing to go together properly. Fortunately, I was able to mix up. Fortunately, I had already mixed up an extra batch of epoxy, and I was able to thin the mixture and then get the wing together. So that's it for me for this wing in terms of joining. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to RCPylon.TV and subscribe to DonStegall.com as well. We have a lot more subscribers there right now. That's the conclusion of joining this wing. I will take the tape off after it cures, which I'll give it 24 hours or more before I actually take the tape off. This is a laminating epoxy with a 12-hour cure time, but it takes several days for it to get fully hard. Epoxy fillers can really make your life much easier as a modeler if you learn how to use them properly. I messed up today. I had not used microfibers in a couple of months, and I started out with more than I should have. But that's how flying is. That's how driving a car is. You make mistakes, you correct them, and you move on. So I'm done with this wing for tonight, and I'm going to work on another side project. And thanks for watching. So I hope you'll stay tuned to the assembling the Strega 40 video series and my series on epoxy fillers.